Aloha, this is Jason from Hawaii. Welcome to a special edition of the Comics for Fun and Profit podcast. In this episode, I'm interviewing Gavin Smith. He's here to promote his works on Star Trek The Mirror Wars. That's from IDW. It's written by David and Scott Tipton. Issue 1 will be coming out on October 6th. And also, too, Gavin is currently working, or I think you're currently working on Dead Legends 2. Is that correct? Or you have?
It's all finished. Actually.
It's all finished.
But yeah, that was my project during the pandemic. So when I couldn't leave my house, so it's all finished and currently coming out. The 4th out of the 5th issue just came out yesterday digitally on Comixology. Yeah,
and listeners, if you guys are interested, that is on Comixology. The physical trade comes out on October 19th. And it's a very good price point at $16.99. And if I remember correctly, because I got the first trade and it's 5 issues, and that's a great price, $16.99. So, Gavin, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. I appreciate you having me on the show.
No, I'm going to say thank you very much for your time, Gavin. Thank you very much.
Glad to be here.
Listeners, I'm going to give a history of Gavin's incredible work history. Now, and I told Gavin he can correct me at any time. Now, Gavin, correct me if I'm wrong. You've been working as an artist for the last 10 years, correct?
Yeah, approximately 10 years. Yeah, after I graduated from Joe Kubert School. Okay,
and then we're going to touch upon that a little bit too as well.
No problem.
All right. So Gavin's work includes Dead Legends and Dead Legends 2, and that's from A Wave Blue World. It's written by James Maddox, and currently it's on Comixology. He's also done artwork on All We Ever Wanted. It's a sci-fi anthology to inspire hope that is also from A Wave Blue World. And also, you did something called Human City. Can you talk about that just for a little bit?
Yeah, that was actually a project I started in Joe Kubert's class while I was at the school. And the beginning of it was in Joe's class. Joe would say, not all of you are going to get jobs at DC and Marvel after we graduate right away. So you got to have a backup plan. And, his first assignment, which was, all right, by next week, we need a cover in 5 pages in pencils. And we also have 9 other classes too.
Yes.
So anyway, I did then the next week we inked and lettered it, and then we did some more stuff with it throughout the semester. But I started those initial 5 pages in the cover in Joe's class, and after I graduated, I came home to Indianapolis and finished that, and self-published it. And there's maybe like 600-700 copies out there in the world. But I'd print about 100 at a time, and then sell out of those, and then get them printed again, and then just keep that cycle going. And it just led to my work, and we'll get into that. But it's what broke me in, so to say. Yeah.
And I'm going to ask, Human City, is that? I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off the cuff here. I haven't even finished your work history, but is it a complete story in that issue, or is it, or are you happy? I'm sorry?
Oh, sorry. I wanted to do more of it.
Okay.
I wanted to do a lot more of it. It's very much like I said, I did 1 issue with the hopes of continuing and doing like 5 or 6 issues, and then I had a sequel in mind as well. But I only got the 1 done, and I just started getting more and more regular work. And, then a lot of the media has covered a lot of what I wanted to do in Human City. So I probably, unless I change the story, I don't know if I'll ever get back to it. A lot of, and it's funny. We did a little bit of what I wanted to do in Human City and Dead Legends too. And it's funny, a lot of things that happened in The Mandalorian was stuff I wanted to do in Human City. And I mean, because it's kind of it's a loner dude and it's very, very lone wolf and cub, and
Okay.
it's a guy traveling with a baby that's not his, kind of
Yeah.
having this fatherly role thrust upon him in a very violent world.
Uh-huh.
And that's lone wolf and cub, and it's very much what Mandalorian was doing. And I had some cool ideas for it, and I took a more grounded approach with that when we did Dead Legends. Like, I had some ideas that I had in my back pocket for about 9-10 years, and
Yeah.
I fed them to James as well, my writer for Dead Legends, or my partner, I should say, for Dead Legends. And yeah, we just mixed it into that, and I probably done all I could do with that story as of
Yeah.
now, unless I think of a different angle, and maybe it's something I do in the future, but I don't know when that future could come.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm just asking,
Sure.
if a listener is is interested in this, do you have this? Can they buy it anywhere or?
They could probably, if they go to my website, which is gavinsmithcomics.com, you could order a copy off of me. I know I have at least 30 or 40 of them left in
Okay.
my closet. I saw them in my closet. I was cleaning it out the other day. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Gavin, thank you very much. I'm going to continue on with your
Yeah.
incredible history. You've also worked on something called Charge, an
Yeah.
all superhero must die comic, and it's from JTRO Comics, and that was written by, I'm going to try to pronounce, Mark Politan and
Polton.
Polton, and Jason Trost.
Yes.
Okay. And then also too, you've worked on, and there's, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 volumes of The Accelerator from Blue Juice Comics, and that was
There's
written
4,
in,
actually.
I'm sorry?
There's 4, actually.
Oh, there's 4. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then it's written by RFI Porto. Okay.
Porto. Yeah.
And then I know, I'm going to say, I think I've seen it, and I'm not sure, but I know 3 volumes are on Comixology. If the 4th one's on Comixology, that'd be great too. So, yeah.
I think so. There's there was a big gap because we did the first 3 volumes kind of annually. That was my first big job coming out of Human City. Blue Juice Comics, the publisher, found me and hired me in a very interesting way, because I used to work in TV productions, which I think we're going to get into as well.
Yes.
And a friend of mine who worked on the set of Project Runway worked on another set with these guys, and they were starting their own company, and they found me through him. And we started the first volume. I started drawing it in 2012. It started coming out in 2013. The first trade came out in 2014. Then we had a trade out in 2015 and 2016. And then there was a bit of a gap while Ronnie Porto, RFI Porto, he worked on some movies because he's a screenwriter. And he just got really busy with that. Like, a lot of his his agent was getting him a lot of work. So Accelerators took a bit of a break, and then we came back and we did 5 more issues that were coming out through 2020. And I believe physical volume 4 came out in February of this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it should be on Comixology yet.
Yeah.
I haven't checked.
And then the last thing that also too, you did some artwork for Heavy Metal. Is that correct?
Yeah. I did a 6-page story in the issue 297. So right before their big 300 anniversary. Right after I finished up Dead Legends Volume 1, I had about 2-3 weeks to do it. And so not very long, and they kept pushing the deadline on me, but it was for the holiday special, and I think it was supposed to come out in December and ended up also coming out in February of 2020. So it was a big month for me.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm going to go off the cuff. Sorry, Gavin.
Sure,
So
no worries.
when you got the call from who wrote? So first off, what was the title and who wrote it?
The
That
heavy
part.
metal story.
Yeah.
So it was my friend Andy Eschenbach. He lives in Cincinnati, so a couple hours away from me, and we've been friends for a long time. Andy writes these really cool self-published crime stories, and he's currently working for IDW, co-writing a story with Brian Level and oh my God, I can't believe I'm blanking on the name of the story that he's doing. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
But Andy's excellent writer. But he approached me, and like I said, we've been friends for a long time. He's like, hey, I have a connection with heavy metal. Are you interested in doing a short story for the Christmas issue? Like, I'm gonna pitch it. All I need you to do is some character designs. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, and he sent me the script, and I looked it over, or at least the outline.
Yeah.
And I looked it over, and I was like, this is cool. And it's called Bethlehem.
Okay.
It was a very weird take on the retelling, or I don't even know if it's a retelling of story of Bethlehem, but that's what it's called. And so I did like maybe 2-3 character designs, something like that for the story. And then I sent it off to him, and he sent it into heavy metal, and it got approved, but like 6 or 7 months later. And I had completely forgotten about it.
Yeah.
And he just came back to me, and he's like, Gavin, we got that job. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, we're working for heavy metal. And I was like, oh, cool. Because it's funny. Heavy metal is just one of those magazines I've always I'd love to do work for them, but it just never seemed like it was on my radar. Like I didn't know how to get that.
Yes.
And luckily it came to me. And now it's funny. My editor for Dead Legends 1 and 2, Joseph Village, after I did my story there, he got a full-time staff position there in editorial. So now I think it might be a little easier for me. But at the time it wasn't that way. But I was very fortunate to be able to be a part of that.
Yeah. Okay, so talking about the heavy metal thing. So I know you said it was cool to get that job, but I'm just gonna ask, realistically, were you excited? Were you going, oh my God, this is heavy metal, man?
Yeah, it was great. And like, it's funny. There was Andy had written in a scene where there's an alien being loaded into this coffin thing, and the alien is nude, and I was like, well, do I draw his his genitals? And and we were just like, I was talking to him, I was like, do I do this? And he's like, dude, it's heavy metal, we've got to. So I did.
That's pretty cool.
So we had to, It's like, all right, well, draw some alien nudity, and that's on the resume now.
Sorry, again, I'm going to continue.
No, that's great.
A great story. I'm going to continue on. Okay, now correct me if I'm wrong. Also, too, you were in a punk rock band, correct?
Yeah, I was in a few. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, and you are a proud father of a corgi. What's your corgi's name? I forgot. I listened to the podcast, another podcast, and I forgot the name.
This is Coco that I have. Yeah, she's great. She's my second corgi, technically. I had another one who passed about a year ago. His name was Wally.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. Well, the quick version of that is right before I had him before I went to Kubert school. I had him about a year and a half. Had to give him back to my mom because I had originally gotten him from my mom's dog, who had pups. And Wally became mine. Had him for about a year and a half. Moved back to school, or moved to New Jersey to go to school. So she took care of Wally, and I came back, and I never had a house that I could take him back for. So my mom kept him, and until my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, we moved into a house together, and so we ended up babysitting Wally very frequently because my mom had just retired, so she was going on these trips with her girlfriends, and just to travel a lot. So I got to spend a lot of good quality time with Wally, and she also had Coco.
Mhm.
And my grandparents were not well at the time. My mom was taking care of them, so
Mhm.
she couldn't manage him. Wally was much more chill than Coco was,
Mhm.
so she couldn't handle Coco while taking care of my sick grandparents. So we ended up adopting Coco. We've had her about 4-ish years now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
yeah. Coco's awesome. She's great.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off the cuff here because I know you,
Yeah.
and I'll get into this, where can listeners follow you on social media, but do you post pictures of Coco on your Twitter feed?
Every once in a while,
Okay.
yeah, here and there. It's funny. I was actually at a convention this past weekend,
Mhm.
and I ended up spending like $60 on stuffed corgi toys. And I do so many conventions, and I
Yeah.
never fall for this stuff. Like I
Yeah.
just don't like. It's like I've seen it all. Like you can't surprise me. And then there was some girl that was walking by my table, and she had a big stuffed corgi in her hands, and my eyes just lit up, and I was like, where did you get that? And so she sent me over to this booth, and
Uh-huh.
I get there, and this lady's got all these like stuffed animals, and a big section of it is corgis. But the corgi that had the stuffed corgi that had Coco's colors,
Oh.
the big one was sold out,
Oh.
but they had like a keychain size
Yeah.
of it.
Oh, okay.
So I bought that, and it was like $15. And I got her information. I was like, well, I'll order the big one for me
Yeah.
at some point. Then that was on the Saturday of the show. So Sunday goes around, and I'm at my table, and I'm, drawing or something, and doing my convention stuff. And she actually comes. She finds my table. She'd been hunting around the convention center looking
Mhm.
for me, and she's carrying this big stuffed corgi. And my eyes just lit up, and she's
Yeah.
like, "I found you!" And then she sold it to me on the spot, and I brought it home to my wife, and she was like, "I don't know why you bought this," and now she loves it. Like this is all within the matter of like since Sunday, since I came home with it.
Yeah.
She went from like this is silly and kind of dumb to I love this thing. It's ridiculous. It's great.
Oh, it is. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. That is pretty cool.
And then I have stuff like this. This is more Wally's colors actually, but this is my Cintiq pen holder.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's like you find a lot of little like dumb corgi stuff around my house. We're suckers for it.
All right. I'm sorry, Gavin. I'm going to continue on. Okay.
Please.
And let's see. We before we started the interview, I know we talked about that you early in your career that you did artwork for some record albums and merchandise for independent record labels such as Glory Hole. And I'm going to try to pronounce this one, and correct me just correct me. Hugh Corporistic Inc.
I think it's He Who Corrupts Inc.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a hardcore label. I think out of Chicago. I did it was a friend of mine's band that got on that label.
Uh-huh.
And I did the artwork for one of their records, and I don't remember what their band was that I did the record. I mean, this was back in 2009, 2010. And their old band name was The Sorely Trying Days, but that's not what the record was that I ended up doing the album art for was. So I honestly don't remember, and I feel bad. But I guess that's just getting older, right? So, yeah, He Who Corrupts, and some things here and there. A lot of it probably got lost to time.
Let's see. Also, too, you were a PA for a couple TV, or at least for a number. I don't know, maybe a number of shows. I know. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Man Cave is one of them.
Yes.
Okay. And then also, too, you were a PA on Project Runway. Now, correct me. Was that in 2010?
I believe so. Yeah, 2010, because it was right before my third year of Kubert School. So that was, summer of 2010. Yeah.
Okay. Now, the only reason why, listeners, I'm mentioning the Project Runway is because you had a brief encounter with an angel. a Victoria's
Yeah.
Secrets angel. Now,
Yes.
listeners, we're going to get to that story at the end of the interview.
Okay. All right. We're saving the good stuff for last. All right.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
are. Okay, now, all that, did I miss anything?
I don't believe so. Nothing. Oh, I did a little work with Ghost in the Shell.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and and we can get into that as well. For the global neural network hardcover that came out in 2018, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Are you?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask. Are you a fan of like anime stuffs and
Here and there, not a ton. It's just
Oh.
something that's never been on my radar. Like I love Death Note, Akira.
Mhm.
I'm making my way through Cowboy Bebop, which I
Oh, okay.
don't know as a corgi enthusiast how I haven't finished it, but
Mhm.
I've got about halfway through that. And there's some stuff here and there, like Attack on Titan, I really like.
Mhm, yes.
Um, but I haven't watched a ton of it.
Mhm. Okay. All right. And then, where can listeners follow you on social media?
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Gavin P. Smith.
Mhm.
And I guess Twitch as well, but I haven't been able to be on my Twitch for a while because a lot of the stuff I'm doing is too spoilery to
Oh, yeah.
go up there. And I don't want any of these companies that are nice enough to hire me to get mad at me.
Yeah. So yeah.
But I do a Twitch stream with my friends every Thursday. So I'll actually be doing one later tonight.
Uh-huh.
My friend Sue Lee,
Yes.
who draws a ton of great stuff. She did a lot of work for Dynamite. She did her latest stuff that just came out was in the Red Sonja Black, White, and Red that came out this week, I believe.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
She's great. So Sue hosts a Twitch stream. I think it's Sue Lee Draws on Twitch,
Mm-hmm.
and it's myself, her. Let's see if I get everybody that shows up on the show. A lot of us have the same art rep, Modern Mythology Comic Art. So Sue, myself, Tyler Boss, Tom Riley, Josh Hickson, Ricardo Lopez Ortiz, Craig Cermak, Adam Gorham shows up from time to time, Sweeney Boo, Rossi Gifford, Dave Stokes. Those are kind of the regulars that pop in and out of the show. And then we have guests from time to time, like Viken Marion shows up, and Travis Muller, and Matt Horak will show up every once in a while. Like we just it's kind of revolving guests. Ramon Villalobos has been on the show, and like it's one of these things where we just kind of sit around and we just talk and we just goof off, and sometimes we have a theme and we draw for like 3 hours. We interact with our chat, and we just have silly conversations. It's fun.
But it just sounds like it more sounds like it's just friends hanging out.
It really is, and that was kind of the genesis of it. Is this global pandemic hit, and we were supposed to go to a lot of conventions and see each other, and we were all becoming friends anyway, because we all signed to not all of us, a good chunk of us had signed to Modern Mythology Comic Art, and then Modern Mythology Comic Art split into 2 different factions, because it was started by 2 guys. One was in Canada and one here in the States. And the Canadian guy took all the Canadian artists, and the guy in the States took everyone in America. So, but we had a SPAC group, and we had all hung out at New York Comic Con 2019, started our Slack chat, and then just kind of became this thing. It's like, let's just do this. It's a social thing where we need that. We weren't able to go anywhere, so we needed some sort of way to be social, have fun, and it kind of became much more than that, and it's really nice.
Yeah, I have to pop into it, because I follow her on Twitter. But yeah, I need to pop in just to see that.
Yeah, it's got a loose name. Like, it doesn't really have a name. the
Yeah.
show, but the Instagram that we have is called Sue and the Boys.
Mm-hmm.
So to go back to more social media, you can follow Sue and the Boys on Instagram, and we post stuff from what we've been drawing that week, or if we have new releases coming out, we'll post about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we all happen to be at a convention or somewhere, we'll all post a picture of each other there.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever's we feel like.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's pretty fun.
All right, Gavin, I'm sorry. So I'm going to continue on.
Please.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a little town called Peru, Indiana,
Mm-hmm.
home of Cole Porter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, actually, my dad lives right down the street from Cole Porter's house.
Oh, that's pretty.
Yeah. Same
not,
street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then, do you remember what was the first comic you read?
I honestly can't remember. I think comics have just kind of been around all my life. Like it's just something, you know, we'd go to local drugstore, or
Yes.
you know, I'd go to the spinner rack or like the magazine stand and just read whatever I could. I read like Mortal Kombat comics as a kid, and you know, Batman and whatever, and then there would always be trips to my grandparents who lived in southern Indiana. We'd make our way back up through Indianapolis on the way home. And we'd stop at like a Borders or a Half Price Books or something like that, and I would just like run away and you know, again, get caught in the graphic novel section. And also growing up, we'd go to Kokomo, Indiana, which is about 20 minutes south of Peru, and there was you know, that was the closest place to go if we needed anything like from like a Walmart or from a mall. You know, we'd go to Kokomo, and behind the Markland Mall, which is the main mall in Kokomo, literally across the street, there was a comic book store that was catty corner to the mall. Okay. So I would sneak out of the mall and run across the street, and you know, this is before cell phones or anything. So my parents would just be like, "Where's Gavin?" And I just ran across the street and got lost in the comic book store for a couple hours. So you know, comics have always been kind of in my life. If I was just reading them at the store, which I don't recommend now. Buy comics, everybody. But my parents would also buy me comics too, and like, you know, they'd buy me like, you know, graphic novels or like collected trades and stuff like that. I remember reading like Death of Superman in trade, and The Return of Superman in trade, and Batman versus Predator, which I still love to this day.
Oh yes,
it's like my favorite Batman story.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that really hooked me as a monthly reader was Grant Morrison's JLA run.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm just asking. Can I ask you what hooked you into what? You know, what was it that hooked you into that JLA run?
I think it was just I don't know. It seemed like I always liked the idea of team books, and like the idea of Justice League. It's like, oh, it's the best of the best coming together.
Yes.
But it was such a unique time for DC at the time, where they had this legacy of Kyle Rayner and Wally West, and you know, apart from the death and return of Superman, it felt like DC Universe had consequences, and something about that really struck to me. Like, oh, Green Lantern can die. Yes. And the whole Green Lantern Corps can die, and they can stay dead. And then there's this young guy who's kind of who inherits this ring, Kyle Rayner. Yeah. And he's an artist, which was a big thing to me. He's not only an artist, but he kind of feels like he's the new kid, and he's playing in the major leagues now, and there's an expectation of him, and there's all these eyes on him at the same time because they don't trust him because of the things Hal Jordan did. And then there's Wally West, who kind of grew up. Wally West is who I named Wally, my corgi, after. So you know, there's Wally, who grew up in the superhero biz as Kid Flash, and now he's got this huge mantle to take over, and he's kind of haunted by the legacy of his uncle,
Mhm.
in a way, and like all that stuff was interesting to me. Morrison brought that together really well. Here comes Batman with his distrust,
Yes.
which it like seemed very Batman, and then it was the most pure Superman as well.
Mhm.
The I don't know. There's so much about every character. There's
Mhm.
the brashness of Aquaman and his
Yes. Mhm.
entitlement, um, and the way he and Wonder Woman clashed, and
Mhm.
it's just Superman being like the perfect Superman. That's really struck me. I felt, I think it was the first time I'd read Superman, and it felt like, oh, this is Superman. Like it
Mhm.
just struck me.
Yeah.
And and then and then they went and made him Electric Blue Superman,
Yes.
which they
Yes.
somehow made, which I loved actually. I don't
Okay.
know why I loved it. I just thought it was cool. And
Yeah.
then they had that arc where they literally fought angels from heaven, and
Mhm.
it was like Superman wrestling an angel while Flash is just kind of stares at it like, whoa. Like, yeah, like this guy thought he couldn't live up to his own legacy. And then that was another thing, is the Superman question, just having kind of imposter syndrome about being Superman,
Mhm.
but he's Superman. A lot of that stuff really just resonated with me at, I don't know, 12, when that's
Okay.
so, and I just really fell for that stuff, and I stuck with it, and it's probably my favorite Justice League run. But I've been such a fan of a lot of other Justice League runs, like Satellite era stuff,
Oh
and
yes. Yeah.
as well as Giffen and DeMatteis and Jeffy
Oh
McGuire's run on JLI, I guess.
yes.
And all that stuff is hilarious to me. So yeah, I kind of just
Mhm.
stuck with me. But yeah, Morrison's Justice League run was what really got me to be a collector. And
Wow, that's pretty
yeah,
cool. And then so and then how did you know how did what led you to decide to work in comics and go to the Joe Kubert School?
I think it was just one of those things. Like as a kid, having these comics, I'd always see the ad for the Joe Kubert School in the back of books. And by the time I got to like junior high school, I think rock and roll and girls got in the way of me
Mhm.
reading comics much more. And then around the time I was 19,
Mhm.
I had a job that I was delivering newspapers all over Indiana,
Mhm.
and it was just it was a good gig, and I got paid really well. So I was like, oh, I can afford comics again. Um, and I had done a year at Ball State University, which is where David Letterman went to school.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
and I I didn't like it. I took an art class there. It's funny, I actually took a drawing class there that I failed,
Mhm.
and that was just because and that came up in the Joe Kubert School interview. It's funny because I passed all the stuff I was supposed to pass, but I again was very much into being into my bands at the time, and
Mhm.
I missed classes, and to go play shows, and my attendance made me fail.
Mhm.
Not my work, but I guess it was my work ethic at the time. So um, anyway, I took a couple years off school and started collecting comics again. And I saw the ads. I saw the school still existed. It was just kind of one of these
Yeah.
things I played with for a while. And I talked to my dad, and I was like, "Hey, I think I want to make a run at this." And it was one of those things that he was. My dad's a musician,
Okay.
and he's awesome. He's crazy. Like he's one of these guys that can pick up any instrument and play it,
Mhm.
and he has perfect pitch. So like, he does a lot of jazz stuff. So one of the things that is crazy about my dad is like, if he's playing with somebody and they're like, "Hey Don, like we usually play Blue Christmas. We usually play it in D. Can you play it in F sharp?"
Mhm.
Yes, and it's like that quick. He can compute it in his
Mhm.
head without sheet music, and it's just all right. I can do like it's wild. And I've played a little music myself over the years. Like I've been playing guitar since I was 15. I just
Mhm.
turned 36. I am awful at guitar, but my dad. It was just one of those things that never translated as well.
Mhm.
My dad's great at usually anything. Anyway, so bring it all back around, my dad had a chance to go on tour when he was about my age at that time. We were about the same age as I was making my decision on whether or not I was going to go to Cuba school.
Yes.
He was like, well, I had a chance to go on tour with this band that ended up doing pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I chose to kind of play it safe. And he's like, that's kind of something I always wished I'd done.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is something you think you need to do, like, I go for it. Like, let's do it. Like, you know, I'll help you out. And so I moved back in with him for a couple months to get ready to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and another one of the things besides seeing the ads in the comic books, I had listened to an episode of Indie Spinnerack, which was a podcast back in 2000. Had to be. I think the interview I had listened to was like in 2006.
Okay.
But it was this guy named Charlie LaGreca, who is the founder of Denver Comic Con.
Oh, okay.
But he was a graduate of the Kubert School, and he was and he did some work for Disney Magazine doing a strip called The Hair Pair.
Mm-hmm.
And but he hosted this podcast, and he went and interviewed Steve Bissett, who was in the very first class of the Kubert School. And at the time, Steve was running the Center for Cartoon Studies in Vermont, I believe. And so Charlie went to interview him about that, but they spent the whole interview talking about the Kubert School, and it just made me want to go there more.
Yeah.
So I reached out to Charlie as well, just to kind of be like, is this something I should do? And we became friends over that.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, he's really sweet. He's a sweet guy. And, you know, like those things combined, and like cards just kind of lined up. I wasn't really doing the rock and roll thing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of phasing out of it. And so I just kind of packed up my life and moved to New Jersey. I got accepted to the school, and then I went out to New York Comic Con, right before my semester started. And I got to meet Adam, Andy, and Joe.
Wow.
So I went to the show. I'd never been to New York before. Never been to a Comic Con of that size before.
Yes.
And it was right around the time Adam and Andy had left Marvel and went to DC.
Mm-hmm.
And Andy was doing Batman, Adam was doing action. And they were signing at the DC booth, and I showed up at the signing too late to get in line because they capped the line up. And so I just kind of waited on the outskirts of the line.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, I didn't know where I was going in that show. And I kind of bombarded Adam. He was very sweet to talk to me at the time because I was just kind of just lying in wait. And he directed me to where the school booth was, and he was super cool. I went over there, and I got to meet Andy and Joe as well. And Joe sat down and talked with me, and I brought artwork for him to look at. He looked at my portfolio, and I went there because I wanted to find out what I needed to work on before I get there, so I could feel like I could have a little bit of a head start. And you know, he just took what I was working on, or my pages, and he just kind of didn't say a word and silently put them up to his chest, stacked them, put them in his lap, and he's like, "You inking too much because you don't know what to leave in and what to leave out," and just proceeded to just say all these things to me that I never had an honest critique like that. And it was awesome. I loved it. And like, he proceeded to just rip me apart, which is, I thrive on that. I might have another story about that later, but but from a different creator.
Oh,
but,
okay.
Yeah.
was it a good experience, or no?
Depends on how you look at it. I think it's a good experience. I think
okay, all right, okay, yeah.
But I'll jump into that next. But but then, you know, fast forward 3 years later, after, you know, and Joe says, you know, he's like, "Are you coming to the school?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got accepted. I'll be there in September." And he's like, "You're gonna learn so much in your first month." It was awesome. So you get Joe third year, graduate year, your senior year, and fast forward to those 3 years, we're in his class, and we get the 5 pages and a cover for Human City.
Yes.
And everyone's doing their stuff. My buddy Craig, who's also on Sue and the Boys, he gets his review first, and Craig was always the good one in the class. He came to the school straight out of high school, so he was one of those kids that was just naturally good and has remained very good. And then I was like 23 when I got to the school, so about this time turning 25, I think. And anyway, Craig goes first, nails it. Joe loves him.
Yeah.
Then I go second, and same thing happened as the 3 years before. We put everything up to his chest.
Yeah.
Didn't say a word.
Yeah.
Stacks it, and then just goes, "This is some good stuff." And I was like, "It's a nice like full circle moment." No,
Yeah.
it was cool. But yeah, Joe is the man. So anyway, yeah, it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made. Like it's a lot of the stuff I probably could have learned
Yes.
had I not gone to the school on my own, but I don't think I mean, I might still be learning had I not gone. Like it's one of those things you do so much in such a concentrated amount of time that you have no choice but to get better and to push yourself each assignment. Some people do push themselves, some people don't, but like, you know, I always try to like, I think somewhere during my second year, obviously during first year you're pushing because you're trying your best and you're trying these new things, but second year you kind of know all the basics and you're like, okay, I know this stuff now. How can I take it a step further each time I'm drawing? And that was really when I started to like fly in second year. And then third year I was like, I felt like on another level. And it's weird because, you know, 10 years later I look back on that stuff and I'm like, oh, that was awful. But but at the time I was growing at such a crazy rate that it seems unreal.
But I mean, but it's incredible that literally to have, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, it's incredible to have Joe Kubert.
Oh yeah,
the legendary Joe Kubert to kind of mentor you.
It was nuts. Like, and it was unreal. Like, I mean, like it's one of these things. I go to these shows and like now I go to these shows and I don't see celebrities. I don't get starstruck, but Joe was like, there he is. And it was funny because, like, you know, like I said, we had 10 classes a week and we're all a bunch of dorks, you know. Like we're all comic nerds, and like, you know, we're trapped. The way the classes worked is we all stayed in the same place, and the teachers came to us, so we all had our desks, and like morning class teacher would come in, afternoon class teacher would come in.
Oh, okay.
We stayed put unless we did like a life drawing or something else like that, or the animation class first year we had a room for that. But for the most part, we were just in that room, and you know, we were just joking around. And at this point, a lot of the teachers that we had recycled every year. So like, you know, there were some teachers we had second year that we had also had in first year. And because we had in third year that we had in second year. So we knew them already. So we're all goofing off, and, you know, we all have a rhythm. But then Joe comes in the room.
Yeah.
And it's no one's joking around. No one's, it's serious business time.
Yeah.
It's when we get real. And then it's funny, we had so I had Joe in the morning. It was Tuesdays we had Joe, so I had Joe in the morning, and then the afternoon's Todd Doney, who's this incredible illustrator. He does a lot of landscape illustration and stuff. He's awesome, but he's a big goof too, so like he showed up and like for the afternoon class, and we had also had him second year and a little bit first year. So he showed up in the afternoon. He's like, heard what Joe did to you guys, so I'm going to take it easy on you. Because, you know, we had 9 other classes. We just heard Joe gave us a 6-page assignment, you know, which includes the cover. So he luckily took it easy on us, but he was just like, yeah, good luck with that, you guys. It's good stuff.
But Gavin, thank you very much for sharing that incredible story about Joe Kubert. And like you said, it's a full circle, because before you got accepted, before you literally the first day of school, you went to, see him at a convention to go, hey, what do I need to really
Yeah.
improve? Which was great.
Yeah.
And he was just honest with you
Yeah.
because I only can imagine that the industries can be more, he's just trying to prepare you for what's to come.
Yeah. And I think that was, I mean, that's the whole purpose of the school, is like he was very encouraging too, and that's really refreshing.
Yeah.
Especially in retrospect, now that I've been in the business a couple of years, and that
Mm-hmm.
he was so encouraging. And anytime I look at someone else's portfolio, I try to remember that and try to just if there's a thirst for knowledge, I try to,
Yeah.
like we all love this stuff.
Yes.
Like we all want to make this stuff because we love, like everybody that works in comics knows it's a labor of love.
Mm-hmm.
Get into this to get rich.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just having that positivity, adding to it, just
Mm-hmm.
hopefully helps make people make their stories they always wanted to tell and stuff like that. And I was very young at the time. However that could have gone could have affected me in a big way, and it went very well. And it's a very vulnerable time. It's a very, very vulnerable thing to just share your work with someone in general.
Yeah.
And especially at that age. And he was super cool and willing to push me and guide me in the right direction. Yeah, and I hope I can do that for someone down the road.
But I also have to end it where it's nice to get that nice validation where he's third year, he's looking at your stuff and you're kind of going, oh my God, is this the is this the convention scene thing again?
Yeah, it's a little mini nervous breakdown, because at that point you've been there for a couple of years. You should be ready. You should, and that's the thing. It's first year you learn the basics. Second year you experiment, which is, like I said, I did. That's when I started pushing myself more. And third year is portfolio year. Now it's time to get a job. And he was luckily he liked my stuff. Mm-hmm. Joe played favorites too. I won't get into that because that's other people's stories. But like it's like, like if you knew if you were on Joe's good side.
Okay, so I'm going to continue on.
Yeah.
Drew wants to know, Drew from the co-host of Comics for Fun and Profit. He just wanted to know, what was, and I'm not sure if you covered it in the beginning, but what was your real first paid professional job?
Like I said, I'd done some album artwork here and there, and that was okay. And I did some stuff for a local brewery, like some posters here and there.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
But I'd probably say, probably Accelerators was my first big regular paying gig, which I thought was I feel like I got lucky in a way, because I had the connection of a friend of mine who worked in TV, happened to work with these guys that are in TV, putting together their own comic book. And it started out when I took the job. Man, I got lucky in more ways than one as far as how it all worked out for me, because they hired me to do one issue.
Oh, okay.
Initially, and I ended up quitting my job, moving out of my place that I was in because I was living with friends, and got my own apartment. And so I got my own apartment, and I, drastically changed my life again for comics. And it was just the one job. I don't know what I was thinking, but I'm glad it worked out. But I did the one issue, and then during the first one, they were like, well, we're going to pay you to do 2 issues. Oh, okay. Just in case. So you're getting 2 issues of work. And, if we decide to go on after that, we'll let you know. Then it became, hey, we're just going to finish up this run. We're going to do 5 issues. I'm like, oh, cool. Then somewhere in the middle of that, it became, we're going to push this 1 more issue. So now it's going to be 6 issues. I was like, cool, right on.
Yeah.
Then somewhere, I finished up, and they're like, yeah, I think we're going to do think we're going to do 10 issues now. And I was like, oh, okay.
Mhm.
And then somewhere along the line, it's like, yeah, I think we're going to do 5 volumes. So it's going to be 25 issues altogether. And I'm just like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I eventually did, like I said, we were on a little break. We haven't finished the 25.
Mhm.
I actually just had dinner with those guys a couple of nights ago. They happened to be in Indianapolis
Mhm.
for a job, and I met up with them. I hadn't seen them in about 3 years.
Mhm.
And we kind of talked about what the future of accelerators. There's no pun intended because it's a time travel book. But and like it's funny. Like I've been working with these guys since I was about 25, 26, and I just turned 36, and we're still talking about working together. But these they were my first real big break,
Mhm.
which led to kind of just steamrolled into everything else.
Mhm.
I feel, but also Human City was responsible for my first gig. It's responsible for almost every job I've ever had,
Mhm.
in one way or another.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gavin, I'm going to continue. I know I told you this was going to be an hour. I
I
think
got
almost.
time. We're
Okay.
good.
All right.
I do have to take my wife to work in about an hour.
Okay.
So
Well,
we can keep going as long as you want.
no, we'll be done, before that. Don't worry. Okay. All right. So now everything leads up to Star Trek: The Mirror Wars.
Yeah.
May I ask, can you tell the listeners what is the premise of this? Now, correct me if I'm wrong. It's an 8-issue limited series, right?
Yes. Short answer is yes.
Yeah.
It's a year-long event.
Oh, okay.
So the 0 issue came out a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
And then there's a 0 issue, 8 issues of the main series, and then 4 tie-ins. And I'm doing the 8 issues.
Okay.
The 4 tie-ins, I'm not sure. I think it's a different team for each of the tie-ins, so I don't know who's on those. But altogether, it'll be like a 13-issue chunk, but with the 8 issues kind of being the main story. And it's funny, I can't tell you everything, not just because of like script and NDA stuff, because like I don't know. but I do know, like, it's kind of got the premise. It's the mirror world. There's been 3 or 4 volumes of stuff that the Titans have established with the mirror world, and it's continuing on that path of, I don't know if you heard that, my Corey's going nuts. Yeah.
Corey going, no, you're spoiling it already. You're telling too much. Right? Just say Star Trek.
Yeah. I'm gonna put her into a Starfleet uniform and throw her in the. I'll probably get in trouble for that. So
we're in the mirror universe.
Instead of discovering new life and worlds, it's out like destroying and conquering new worlds, and it's kind of fun. It's the characters we all know and love, and they're kind of getting into like everything I've drawn so far. Like there's a through story happening, but everything kind of feels like the next gen show where it's all kind of one shots. Almost where it's like, okay, here's the adventure in this issue. This is what we do. Here's our mission on this. Yeah, for this issue. But there is a through line coming. I'm not even totally sure what the through line is.
No.
The Tipton boys are wild, and they've got it all figured out. I've tried to get them to share as much with me as possible, but like, we want to keep surprising you. And like they told me one thing recently, which I've already drawn it, but they told me what was happening because I'm working on issue 3 right now, and they told me it was something that was going to happen in issue 3, and I just started laughing at that. I was just like, what? That's insane. Okay, bring it on. Like, keep the craziness coming. And like, then they'll do that to me every time I finish an issue. I hit them up and I'm like, hey, what's next? And they're like, oh, I was like, well, what's coming up down the road? I just kind of want to know. And they're like, oh, we got this crazy thing, and someone blows this thing up. And like, I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, that's just issue 4. And I'm like, that sounds like a whole run. So they're putting me to work. It's a lot of stuff they have in this book.
So I'm going to ask you, how big of a Star Trek fan are you?
that's what the Tiptons asked me.
Yeah,
that I
yeah,
got the
no,
kid.
yeah.
So it's funny. They said, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your Star Trek knowledge? And I told them maybe a 2,
Yeah.
and that's because I kind of knew their names at the
Yeah.
time. So and it's one of those things. I was very casual with my Star Trek watches. It's one of those things, like, I've never disliked, and
Yeah.
kind of when you brought up like anime and manga before, like, it's not one of those things I dislike.
Yeah.
It just hasn't been in my world, I guess.
Yeah.
And but every once in a while I'd watch Trek, and I'd watch some of the original series, and every once in a while Next Gen would be on,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd watch it and I'd have a good time with it. Like and I'd actually watched a little bit more of the original series more. And then when I found out I was up for Star Trek, I dove into it hard, and I literally, right before this interview, I just finished up All Good Things, so the last episode of season 7. So I finally watched all of the series. I need to watch the movies now, and then Voyager, and then Deep Space Nine, but because some of that stuff I need to know. No spoilers, but I need to know some of that stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, I loved it. Now I'm in. I'm all in. I'm having a great time with it. Yes. And I think it's one of those things that I don't know if I would have appreciated when I was younger. And now that I'm a little older, I do like it now. Like, I was watching, like, just this morning, like, when I watch something, like, I'm at my desk right now, my drawing desk. I don't know if you can tell.
Oh, yes, yeah.
When I have a TV right up here. I don't know if this is going to be video for your viewers.
Oh, no, it's not a video, it's audio, but
okay.
Anyway.
But anyway, okay, so the way we're talking right now, my desk is to my right.
Yes.
For the listeners. And then above my desk is a TV I have mounted to the wall. And so I run cord from my computer to my TV so I can watch stuff. And when I watch stuff, I'm usually like this. So I have my head down, and usually I'm watching something where I know the characters. So Star Trek has been great for this. So once I get to know the characters, I can watch without watching. So I can watch a whole episode of The Simpsons, Family Guy, or Arrested Development, or something like that, like where it's very iconic, memorable, unique characters, and I can fill in the blanks in my noggin. But like this morning, I was watching like What If, the Marvel show, and I was watching the new one, which is the last two I was watching. I was getting caught up. So I watched the What If Killmonger saved Tony Stark, and What If Thor was an only child, those episodes. And I found them hard to watch. And like, and like I'd actually like look up and see what was going on, but a lot of it's just like pew pew pew, and instead of like I didn't get a through line of what was going on with the story. But with Star Trek, it's so unique, where it's like real people talking. And maybe I don't understand all their space and sciencey lingo all the time, but the story is there, and it's them solving problems diplomatically.
Yes.
Which I love. And it just resonates for me more, and I think I'm kind of glad, because I don't know if I would have been ready for that when I was younger, and I probably wouldn't have the appreciation I have for it now, having watched it fresh. So yeah, I'm all in. I need to go back and watch all the original series, as well as, like I said, Voyager and Deep Space Nine, and the Next Gen movies.
Yes.
I had a little bit of what happens in one of the Next Gen movies spoiled for me, because on page 1, episode 1, I have to draw, and this isn't a spoiler, I don't think, but Picard goes to a casino on page 1 on Earth.
Yes.
And they have him dress up in a tuxedo, and the reference says, so like, from
First Contact.
Riker, from the First Contact wedding. So they wanted like a black version of that tux.
Oh, that is nice.
So Yeah, very James Bondy scene in the very
Yes.
first couple pages of Mirror War.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That's
No,
all
I
the
can't
spoilers
wait
you
for
can
that.
get.
I can't wait for that first issue.
It's a blast. Pun intended. There's a lot of very cool scenes, and like I said, these guys, the Tiptons.
Mhm.
Let me first just praise Charlie Kirchhoff, who's coloring the book.
Okay.
No notes. When I got the book back,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this looks great. No notes. Turn it in. I never do that.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I have a couple of things to say. Charlie
Yeah.
nailed it. But yeah, Scott and David, they're keeping me on my toes. And like I said, I don't have as much Star Trek knowledge, especially as those guys. Now that I watched everything,
Mm-hmm.
it's funny how my bridge
Mm-hmm.
becomes more accurate in issue 2, and
Yes.
it will be in issue 3,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm just getting to know it better. But they're feeding me all these cool things, like there's a couple of Cardassian space stations that show up.
Yes.
And I would in these issues, and I was like, does this one even exist? Is there actual reference for it? And they're like, not really, but here's something from the series guidebook that you can use.
Yeah,
and they have all sorts of stuff like that ready for me, at the moment's notice. So they're great collaborators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible because I know what you mean, because back in in the 70s, and I had the book. Okay, yes, I am old. Because I remember I bought that book, but I mean it was and it was from the original series where they would have, and and it was I bought it from a bookstore. It wasn't a regular bookstore, not some used bookstore, this was professionally made. And I'm going, and then you would see, oh, this is the and they would make these ships up from the original series, this is the Dreadnought class,
right,
and it's this looks cool, but we would never see it on screen, or it's just, and they had so many variations of the ship designs. Yeah, but I know what you mean when you said when the Tiptons go, the Cardassian spaceship, no, it doesn't really show up on Deep Space Nine, but we'll show you this source book that someone did,
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that show up that I'm gonna need for later, and they're very good about getting me everything I need for it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And trying to think what else. Without spoiling too much. I don't know. Yeah, just certain Klingon ships and stuff like that, and the bridges, and they've just been great. They're at the drop of a hat. We have a group chat going, and they're just like, here you go, reference. Just draw from this. And sometimes they give me room to. Sometimes they give me room because there's a lot of panels and a lot of dialogue. Because in Star Trek, they talk a lot. Sometimes I have room to play, and they've been very happy. Especially in the action scenes, I tend to play a lot more. Which is kind of my go-to, especially with Dead Legends, which I'm sure we're about to get to.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask, now I'm gonna before I ask the question, I just wanted to say, I know I have some idea, with licensed properties where studios have to give you notes on how to change things. I know in the podcast that I listened to, that I think you got a note saying that, oh, Geordi's too tall,
Right.
But I want to ask you this question is, have you gotten notes that praised you for something unique in Star Trek? Because since you're because that's what I want to hear. Can you share that, or?
There's two things pop off the top of my head. Megan, who's my editor, Megan Brown at IDW, she's fantastic. She's great. She's been just such a pleasure to work with, and every email she sends me is she's excited, which in turn makes me excited.
Yes.
Transfers the excitement to the page. She's all about everything. The notes usually come from the licensors from Trek.
Yes.
So she'll say, you know, like she's like, hey, they think Jordy's too tall. This is who's tallest in order, and you know,
Yeah,
you should pay
yeah.
attention to these things. And but they specifically have been very happy with the way I've been doing Klingon stuff, which is great to
Oh, that's
know.
nice. Yeah.
And then there's a page with Guinan on it
Mhm.
that I think there's a drawing of Guinan on the one page she's on in issue 1
Mhm.
that I think is the best drawing in the book. And it's just of, you know, Whoopi Goldberg's face.
Yeah.
But it's I for some reason knocked that one out of the park. And I knew it when I did it. I was like, oh, that's a good drawing. And then that came back in the notes. They're like, wow, your Guinan here is awesome. And I was like, cool. Okay. I was hoping you guys would think that. So Guinan is very fun to draw. I hope she shows up more. I'm sure she will.
Mhm.
But I've only drawn once so far. That's kind of a spoiler. But she shows up once. I've only drawn once. She doesn't die. Yeah, like those are the big ones, I think. But like they're pretty happy. Like the notes they give me are easy notes, and it's just like little things. And it's really nice and kind of refreshing. Working with a client like Star Trek and IDW, and they're very easygoing on the notes. And it's funny. The bigger the company I tend to work for, the easier the notes tend to be. It's really funny. And so yeah, nothing crazy harsh. Like a lot of people tell me sometimes licensors are hard to deal with. That's not been my experience. So I'm grateful for that.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
When you got this job to do the Star Trek series, you know, did any of your artist friends who are big Star Trek fans, did they give you a hard time? Did they go, why you?
No.
Yeah.
No, it was no, it was more, and this is what I think was what's great about my friends. I have a lot of very good friends in this business, and I feel like you know, I've had some people tell me, you know, kind of recently, it's like, wow, I wish I had more close friends in this business. And it was one of my close friends in this business. He's been in the business about twice as long as I have. And all my close friends that I have in this business, instead of why you, it was more like, it's about time.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool.
So which I thought was cool. Like,
that's nice.
It was more like, you're I don't want to say I want to say I deserved it, but I think they felt like it was overdue.
Yes.
Like it's like you need, like, it's about time you got something on this level.
Yes.
Because like I said, I've been in this business for 10 years, and while I've been working a lot of independent stuff, and like I've had some brushes with some big gigs. A lot of it kind of has an asterisk by it. Like you know, I think maybe heavy metal was the first thing that was a very big accomplishment that doesn't really have an asterisk by it. Like, you know, like there's the Accelerator is kind of an indie book, and that's 4 volumes is a great accomplishment. Dead Legends has 2 volumes. Again, it's an indie book, which is a great accomplishment. We're going to do a 3rd volume as well.
Oh, okay.
Which I think answers one of your later questions.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
But you know, I've worked with Mark Waid, who's one of my childhood comic writer heroes, but for an anthology, you know, and I worked with Dan Harmon for a book that didn't really get a lot of press, and you know, I worked on Ghost in the Shell as a one story. You know, it was one story. I was like kind of technically like a third of a story, because I was kind of a fill-in guy, and in the book I'm credited as an inker, an assistant inking assistant specifically. But like, you know, I did a third of the story we're in, you know, so like there's a lot of these like little asterisks here and there, and it's nice to have this one big gig like Star Trek that is not like that is in my hands, and I think I'm very capable of delivering. So Yeah, I like there was no you know, maybe there are some people out there that are like, why him? And I'm sure it's out there. And you know what? That's fine.
Yeah.
I've not. I've always tried to put out some pretty good vibes in this business. So like, you know, that's you know, if there's negative people out there that against me having this, that's their problem, not mine.
No. I'm sorry, Gavin. Sorry, I didn't mean.
No.
I meant that. Were your friends kind of poking fun at you?
Oh, because they're more bigger Star Trek fans.
Or like, why you, man? And you know, they be joking around, like, you know, make sure really. when you drop a card, make sure he has hair. You know, you know, full head of hair. Okay,
not really, but like it's funny. I went, like I said, I went out to dinner with my editor and one of the guys with the other guys with Blue Chew Comics. So two other guys the other night. And they're the Accelerators people.
Yeah.
And they're big Star Trek fans. So they're grilling me. And I'm like, I don't know. You know, like I said, like I haven't finished everything yet. And so like there's some stuff here and there that like I'm sure fans are going to get on me for. And, you know, I may put this out as a disclaimer. Like anything that you think I got wrong.
Yeah.
I can counter with, it's the mirror universe.
Yeah, that's that's what it is. The mirror universe, man. Come on.
Fine. Yeah, it's fine. but also, I think it's a good stuff. It's a good book, and I think it fits my style. Like I don't know if I tend to get a little more gritty with my work. So like I don't know. I think this is just the right book, the right time.
Yes.
Like I've been talking with IDW for a couple of years, whether it's Megan Brown or it'd been Denton Tipton before her, and sometimes Bobby Kernan. Just like nothing ever seemed to like line up. Like I had a couple of like almost at IDW, but it showed up, and like Trek wasn't on my radar, but the offer came up, and it's such a cool offer, I couldn't say no. And, I'm very grateful because I think this is going to be. I think this is going to be a great series in general, from what I've read. And I think it's going to definitely be the largest audience that's ever been exposed to my work. Yeah. Especially with it being on the cover of previews. Back in July, and that was wild, or August, I forget which. I have it over there, but it's but yeah, that was a shock to me too. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is going to be kind of a big deal, I think. And I don't know if it's like I'm still in that. I almost don't believe it yet, but but when it hits, I'm excited to see what people think of it.
But I'm gonna say, Gavin, you know, it's nice. I'm gonna be, and I'm not. Just hear me out. Sorry.
Sure.
I'm a long time Star Trek fan, but it's nice to see. It's nice to see a fresh perspective. You know, that's why, you know, I'm, you know, because I saw some of your tweets that you tweeted out some, I think it's 1 or 2 pounds that, of course, it wasn't spoilery or anything, but it's nice to see. But it's nice to see a fresh voice in the Star Trek universe, especially in the comic books.
Yeah.
Because it's nice to, for me, it's nice to see. Yeah. So, you know, that's what, you know.
I appreciate that, and I hope, I hope it brings some of the, you know, the older fans, the people that this has been with them their entire lives. I hope I do it justice for them. But like I said, mirror universe. So. Okay. I'm going to continue on because I got to try to wrap you up because I have to make sure that you take your wife to work soon. So let's move to Dead Legends, and we're talking Dead Legends Volume 1 and Volume 2. So for the listeners, can you tell us what is the premise for the series? So the gist of it is our main character Yan, she enters this martial arts tournament, the Dead Legends tournament, to get revenge against Blind Tiger, the man who killed her husband.
Mm-hmm.
But she can't just straight up kill him. She has to run the brackets of the tournament to get to him. But during the course of the tournament, she finds out she's a couple months pregnant with her now dead husband's kid. So now she's fighting for two. That's the premise of Volume 1. We also have this champion named Damon, who imagine like Jean-Claude Van Damme in Bloodsport. Imagine he won the tournament at a very, very young age, but then 20 years later, he's in his late 30s, and he's still there, and he's still champion. He's unbeatable, and he just wants out. And then we have Red Death. This female assassin who is there kind of under mysterious circumstances. She was delivered, she has a mission going into the tournament that I don't want to disclose for spoiler reasons, but it's her motives are questionable, and then she starts to, for the first time in her career, starts to question her mission and the purpose of that. So that's kind of the premise of Volume 1. Blind Tiger is the best villain I have ever come up with. I love Blind Tiger, and he's got a pretty cool role as well, and his own reasons for wanting to win the tournament. But then we jump into Volume 2, where it's our gang is on the run. That's the most I can say without spoiling.
Okay.
But like it's our gang on the run, and our main cast of characters kind of avoiding the fallout of what happens in Volume 1.
Okay.
And dealing with those consequences and until they can't run anymore, and what happens then. And man, what a ride it's been. It's been fun. We just put out issue 4.
Yes.
I think I said earlier, yesterday on Comixology, because the deal with Dead Legends has been we put out the issue 1 in print, and then we do issues 2, 3, 4, and 5 digitally. And they come out on Comixology or whatever digital comics platform you have. But Comixology is usually where people get it. And then we put out the trade.
Yes.
Right immediately after the 5th issue comes out, about 2 weeks after. So, like I said, the 4th issue of Volume 2 just came out. The first issue came out August 11th, every 2 weeks since then. Issue 4, we did a silent issue in Volume 1. And then we did it again, this issue 4. So, and this issue, probably the best comic that James and I have done together. And it just comes together very well. It's James and I have a very unique way of working together, I think. We're very good friends. James was in my wedding. We met as comic creators at conventions, and he's grown to become one of my best friends. And when we were coming up with Dead Legends together, we had been trying to work together on a couple other things. I won't get into that because it's kind of not great. But the gist of it is we got burned a little bit, and that stung. So the idea was we were trying to hitch our wagon to something else to elevate us. We just don't know why. It's another one of those asterisks that I was speaking of earlier. That was like that. Like, why are we doing this when we know we can make something good ourselves? Let's just do it. And so I'd always wanted to do a martial arts story. James wasn't as ingrained into that as I was. I grew up watching a lot of kung fu movies and stuff, and martial arts stuff, and so I told him I wanted to do that, and I went over to his place when he was still living in West Virginia, and I brought a bunch of movies with me. We stayed up late watching movies before we had to drive to Heroes Con, and then back from Heroes Con. We came back to his house, and we watched more movies, and then I went home. I was just like, we're stealing this, we're taking that, and we're flipping it onto
Yeah.
it, and we're doing like, you know, like stuff like that. And then I had my own ideas that I was bringing to it. Like I've had Blind Tiger in my back pocket for a long time. And when James and I started talking about this, I was like, we're using him. And it's the truest collaboration I've ever been a part of. And no offense to any of my other collaborators, but it's like the Dead Legends is purely James and my story. Like it's us getting to let loose, and really with the chains off, like, you know, even though Star Trek hasn't been that bad, you know, as far as like, you know, telling me no and pulling things back, there we don't have those limits. We can do whatever we want. We can go crazy. And so, and maybe there should be someone to James is the only one that tells me no when it comes to that, because sometimes I have batshit crazy ideas, and he's just sort of like, he's just like, no, we can't do that because that messes with this. And I'm like, all right. Like he's like, Gavin, you can't just kill everybody. Like, all right, fine. So, but we were doing the initial pitch. I think I started this part. I'm getting back to it. We put together the initial 8 pages. We were pitching it around, and James had a very choreographed fight scene that almost felt robotic. And I was like, and I got it, and I was like, no, let me. And I just kind of took the suggestion of what his fight was, and I made it my own, and I made a like really cool opening fight scene. And like I was just like, this is how we work together now. Like, you know, you tell me locations, you tell me who says what, you tell me the scene, what everyone's doing, but like let me do all the fight stuff because I think I've got it. So the issue that just came out yesterday, it's a silent issue, and it's a fight issue, and it's between 3 different gangs fighting at an abandoned hotel. That's all I'll say about it. But like it's chaos, and I was like, and the way we did it in the volume 1 is just a one-on-one fight, and it's all silent. But the one-on-one fight takes place throughout the whole issue. And so that script was just like bullet points. It's just like, all right, you're choreographing this whole fight. This is on you. Here's what the first 2 pages are. Then we start the fight. Then it's on you. But like, I need you to hit this bullet point at some point, and I need you to hit this bullet point. And this is the last page. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. And I did it. And then for this one, it's a lot more in depth because it's 3 gangs, it's hotel, there's different location changes. So the script was a little bit more in depth, but not much. There was no panel breakdown at all. It was just like, so and so encounters this person. Okay, then this happens. Then okay, this guy comes in. Then like it's all got to make sense. But like all the action, all the fighting, all the timing and pacing stuff, that's my responsibility for it. So I was more of a co-writer on those silent issues. And I like to think that it's, you know, it's funny because like we do some interviews and some write up interviews, and a lot of people will give James credit for my ideas, but then sometimes they'll give me credit for art ideas he thought of, and it's a give and take, and like that's okay. But at the end of the day, it's ours, and this is the project that we've loved doing. It's our and so we are definitely going to do a volume 3. We talked with Tyler from Away Blue World, and he's committed to wanting to do a volume 3. And volume 3, we've been saving some stuff that we were going to go nuts on. Volume 3 is going to go wild.
Okay.
Like, I really can't wait for people to read all of 2. Get excited because like 3 gets even crazier, and we're gonna have a blast. That's all I can say about that right now. And obviously, nothing's. The James turned in to me the first two scripts.
Mm-hmm.
They're good. They're really good. So
I'm Gavin, I'm going to go off the cuff and I'm going to
yeah.
slowly start winding down. I see you have, is that nunchucks on your hand, the door handle there?
Yeah. They're foam ones. I actually
Oh,
found them
okay.
at a convention when we were packing up and leaving. Someone had them, and I was like, "Sweet!" And I just picked them up, and like they were like someone left them on the floor, and I was like,
Oh my
"Cool,
God.
they're mine." So it's funny. James and I did when we first started Dead Legends. We had a Kickstarter for it, and when
Okay.
Away Blue World, I actually just watched the Kickstarter video yesterday. That's why I bring it up. But like when Away Blue World picked us up,
Yeah.
we canceled the Kickstarter because we wanted as much time as we could to finish
Yes.
it,
Oh,
do it
yeah.
right. And there's when we were doing the video, we there's some goofy fight scenes that we did in the video. It was just me and James when we're talking about like we got into like a fake fight in the beginning of the video. Where like I've just beat him down with nunchucks, and then at the end of the video, we go through our Kickstarter video, give our presentation, show some art, then we roll the credits, and then there's a cut scene at the end of it where James is choking me out, and we're in this room, and I have the nunchucks, and I'm just going like I'm hitting him from behind the head while we're screaming at each other. It's silly, yeah. They don't hurt, but they're fun. They look good, and if I need them for reference, I have them.
Yeah, that's true too. All right. Now, before I start, because I'm going to start wrapping up. So, listeners, if you guys get a chance, Dead Legends Volume 1 is out. The trade paperback is out. It's in bookstores. Go to your comic shops, order it. I read the first issue. I loved it. It was pretty wild. It's pretty wild. I loved it. So I can't wait to read the rest of the story. So yeah. Okay. I'm going to jump into the fun questions.
Okay.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Your two favorite characters are Daredevil and Hellblazer. Is that correct?
There are two of them. Yes. Yeah, they're up there. I've always wanted to run with both of those characters. So hopefully one day.
Yeah. So have you ever, on your off time, you ever drew them together? Because that'd be some incredible crossover. It would be one of those unexpected crossovers.
Yeah. I have not. Maybe one day. I've drawn them separately before and always had fun. Like I actually get requests for John Constantine a lot when I'm at conventions. Yeah. So I think I did one about a month ago. I have a Daredevil. I did Daredevil one recently too, actually, about a year ago. When the pandemic started, I was getting a lot of commissions, and I did a Daredevil one that I think turned out really nice. Has Elektra in it as well. So, yeah.
All right. Let's see. Have you and your wife been to Hawaii?
We have not. That is something that we would probably like to do because I'm about 3 years late to my honeymoon. So we're actually kind of planning what our honeymoon will be. Because after Star Trek.
Yes.
So I'm going to take a little time off after I get finished with Star Trek and before I jump into Dead Legends 3 to hopefully have a honeymoon. And who knows, Hawaii might make the cut.
Okay. All right. So now, listeners, we have come literally towards the end of the interview, and Gavin is going to talk about his brief encounter with a Victoria's Secret's angel.
Yes.
Gavin, take it away.
All right. So as I mentioned before, I worked in TV, and one of the seasons I worked on was Project Runway. So I was the overnight production assistant, which meant the contestants at the time would spend all day at Parsons working, and they'd come back, and I'd be the guy that did their laundry and got their grocery shop for them and all this stuff. And they had, but we also took away all their cell phones, their money, their wallets, their ID, credit cards, all that stuff. They had access to none of it because Project Runway is such a big deal that they couldn't have people spoiling it. So we tried to keep that under containment as much as possible. All they had were these little burner phones to touch me. So I was the overnight guy, and I got to call people in case there were emergencies and stuff like that. after the first like half of it, they send the contestants home for fashion week. They have to build their outfits, then come back. And, one of the contestants, I think, is actually from Hawaii. That was on my season. Ari South, I believe, is her name. She used to go by Andy South, but Ari South, I believe, is their name now. So, anyway, they sent all the contestants home. They come back, and I came home to Indiana to just kind of hang out with some friends, and it was right before my third year at Hubert School started. So they called me and said, hey, we need you to come back to New York to help out for the finish. And I was like, okay, no problem. So I drove back to New York, and I hadn't seen the contestants. At this point, I'd become friends with all of them because I had done a lot of stuff for them. And like I said, I hadn't seen them about a month or whatever, maybe a couple of weeks. And I went looking for them. And I'm in Parsons, and I'm not where I'm supposed to be, but kind of the what happens when you're a production assistant is you're kind of around, and if somebody sees you and that's got a better job than you, they'll basically say, hey, go do this, and like I need you to do this for me. But I mean, if you're kind of out of sight, you're out of mind. So they don't really know unless you're become well known. But it was one of those days that I was out of sight, out of mind. I was not in my normal production assistant place. So like not a lot of people knew me. So I'm goofing off, and I probably shouldn't have been, but whatever. And I'm looking for the contestants, and I go up to where they film, and I can't find them. And but in the main sewing room, and they're not there. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'll just go back downstairs where I'm supposed to be. So I'm waiting on the elevator, and the elevator dings, opens up, and dead center is Heidi Klum. And she's just outrageously gorgeous in real life. It's not even real. Like I didn't think people were that good looking in person. It's wild. So I just kind of step out of the way, let her walk by, and about 10 cronies are following her, and at the end of it is my boss, and I'm just kind of watching like this clown car of people coming out of the elevator. And then my boss is at the very end, and he just kind of gives me this look like, yeah, I know this is pretty ridiculous, go back to where you're supposed to be. I'm like, all right, cool. So I go back downstairs, and about an hour passes, and I'm having lunch. And I'm sitting there, there's this falafel place across from Parsons. I forget what it's called, but it's right on the corner. There's the Midtown Comics, which is across the street from Parsons. So it's a nice little place. So I'd go to the Midtown afterwards. And then get some falafel. It's a nice little like triangle of stuff I could do right there. It's at like 42nd and 7th. I can't remember the falafel. Anyway, not important. But I had a falafel. And I'm sitting there, and I'm eating lunch with my friend, and we're sitting side by side at this table. And Heidi Klum comes back down the elevator, and now she's only got 2 cronies. And I don't know what happened to the other ones, but and I'm sitting there eating, and she's still arguing with all these guys. Like she was arguing with something that she initially came off the elevator. She's talking about something there. Everyone's like, yeah. And like, so she's arguing with these 2 guys coming off the elevator again. And then she just looks at me and my friend, and she goes, you guys agree with me, right? And I got a mouthful of food, and I'm just like, I just kind of let it like that. That was the last I saw of her. I had a couple interesting interactions with Tim Gunn that were cool too, but like he was in my office, which is just like which was basically an apartment room, an apartment where everyone stayed was my office, and it was almost like storage. But it was where I hung out every night. And Tim Gunn was in my office one time. It was just like me, his assistant, and a coworker of mine, and like it was just the 4 of us. It was like, well, Tim, you want a yogurt parfait? And he's like, oh, no thanks. Yeah, Project Runway was a fun, wild time.
All right, sorry, Gavin, I'm gonna slowly start wrapping things up. So again,
please.
Promote your social media platforms again, where people can find you.
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Gavin P. Smith, GavinPSmith.
Mm-hmm.
I have an internet, which is gavinsmithcomics.com. You can contact me on any of those.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do the Sue and the Boys Twitch stream on Thursdays at 8 o'clock with a number of talented comic artists, Sue
Mm-hmm.
Lee being the main host, but Josh Hickson, Tyler Boss, Sweeney Boo, Dave Stokes, Tom Riley, Ricardo Lopez Ortiz, Craig Cermak, myself, Adam Gorham, yada yada yada. A lot of us. Sorry if I missed anyone there. That's twitch.tv/Sue Lee Draws, SOOLEE Draws, and that's Thursdays at 8. You can find me there.
And then any last words to our listeners?
Just thank you for having me. I hope you check out Star Trek The Mirror War. Please check out Dead Legends. If you're coming to New York Comic Con, please come say hi to me. I'll be at table F20. We're going to have a good time. That'll be the release of Star Trek
Yes.
Mirror War #1. And I will have copies of Dead Legends 2 trade paperback there as well.
That's pretty cool. Okay. So, Gavin, I wish you all the success for, both of your series, the Star Trek, The Mirror Wars, and Dead Legends 2. And again, just thank you for your time. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
This was really fun. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And then, now, if you are a new reader to comics or a lifelong comics fan, please check out Star Trek The Mirror Wars. That's from IDW, written by David and Scott Tipton. Issue 1 will be coming out on October 6th. And then Dead Legends 2 from A Wave Blue World, written by James Maddox. Issue 4 just came out on Comixology. And the physical trade comes out on October 19th, and it's only $16.99. And if you're trying to look for Dead Legends Volume 1, that's already out in stores.
Yes.
And I want to thank Drew, the co-host for Comics for Fun and Profit, for putting this episode together. Drew, thank you for all your hard work behind the scenes. And if you are a new listener, please check out new episodes of Comics for Fun and Profit that comes out every Saturday. And, and to you, the listeners, thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and thank you for listening to this episode. Until next time, guys, aloha.
Aloha.